allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Helmers.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Vandam.
Here.
Any additions to today's agenda?
I don't have any.
Make a motion on the agenda. Order.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any corrections for December 10th, 2024 minutes?
I would make a motion to accept those minutes.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discuss the ambulance service.
I would just like to make one comment before you start. Sure. This ambulance service and the EMA director, just something to think about. Can we combine those two?
I don't know, but you know him. You sit on the board.
Yeah,
I don't know what he does. I know what I do.
my concern would be, our ambulance service isn't very robust to begin with. So my question to Sandy would be, in a disaster, could you be at a command center and the county ambulance work without you? That would be my concern, that you're taking away that EMS coordinator when we need that person the most.
In a disaster, I don't think they could handle both.
And that's my main concern with combining the two.
Which is a valid reason.
90% of the time they could, but 10% of the time they couldn't, when we really needed them to. That's my opinion.
Yes. I would be, well, yeah, you're right.
So I mean, if it were done, I would say we look at having a strong deputy in either
Assistant.
ambulance or EMA to
Yeah.
kind of cover that in that 10% or less time where it's needed.
I just kind of think it'd be easier to hire somebody, because then you could offer some benefits and put something with it. Just my thought. Just something to think about. I'm on both of those boards. So.
So you guys, okay for me to go?
Yep.
Okay. So as you guys know, right now we have at least 24 EMS people that are scattered around Osceola County. Over here in Melvin and May City, I just learned that Roger will not renew. He is up for renewal for his EMT license in March, the end of March, just for health reasons. I've known Roger a long time, and it's getting too much for him to come up out of that ditch, and he's afraid he's either going to hurt himself or somebody else. Heather, who is from Melvin, was in a very serious accident about 2 years ago, and she's still recovering. Now, she is keeping up with her EMT license, but we do not know if she will ever fully be able to take call again. So we met with the Melvin City Council. Both Roger and Heather are very concerned about that area. I am too. Just because when Heather and, I'm just gonna pass these out here a second. Can you go? Anyway, so we sat down with the city council and let them know in Melvin what was gonna happen. Our plea is to try and get a first responder class over there. We talked to Kevin Miller from Sheldon. He is willing, if we can get 6 people to participate, we can have it over in Melvin. We are asking them to do a first responder class because that class is only for 60 hours It runs from from April to June, April 21st to June 21st. So they would meet like 2 nights a week to get that class done. The cost of the class, obviously, we're not even concerned about the cost right now. Right now, we're concerned about getting some bodies over there. I did reach out because there's a lot of rumors out there, and I am a person that I have to go directly to that person and ask for them. I did reach out and talk to Rodney and another EMT from Hartley. They did send me an email stating that they would do a mutual aid only if we need them. But they will not just take over, nor can they take over that part of May City and Melvin. But they are willing to do mutual aid with us. I do have that email here. You guys want to pass that around and read it? So right now, we, Sibling Coast, that has been for several years now, we go over to Melvin. And it's always been nice to have the Melvin group, whether they were first responders or EMTs, they would go to the house, they would start doing care. We would come and then we would transport, just like always. So we're kind of, we're really gonna mess Roger over there. Yeah. So that's kind of, that postcard, that is gonna be done, that direct mailing. So we'll be able to hit every mailbox with that. So we're not just short of help, we're gonna open that up so maybe we can get some first responders over in Ocheaton, in the Harris area. We just have one person, an RN in Harris that responds to calls, but she responds in her own personal vehicle. So, and, she's an RN, so she's able to do a lot of care before we get there. Roger does know of a couple of retired nurses that he wants to approach and see if they'd be willing to help out too. Ed Jones didn't they approach you to take the class too?
So,
Thank you very much. So, yeah. That's pretty much all I can, just have any questions. But for now, the city of Melvin said we could bring that digital sign that sits over there by the ambulance garage. We'll put that in the town of Melvin to just every time anybody drives by, they're just gonna see, just gonna, bother the crap out of them about Johnny.
There's lots of flyers out and windows and stuff now.
Yes, we did have Nick Schaefer from 300 Acres. He made a lot of posters, and he's made some magnetic signs. These mailings will go out. We were just, the post office is a little overwhelmed right now with the holiday mail, so we were gonna wait with that.
Could we offer an incentive?
Oh, I would love
I mean,
to.
I look at it,
I
I would be happy to go through 60 hours of training. But one, that's complicated. But, what more do I get? If I went through 60 hours of training knowing that the county, every time I respond to a call as a first responder, would supplement. So let's say Harris pays me $10 an hour.
Yes.
The county would supplement an additional $10 or $20, which we're saving and not having enough hired full-time EMTs or
And
paramedics.
we do pay you for that, your time going on that call. The county already does that in place, but we do not have, like, if you took that class, I'm gonna give you a sign-on bonus of $1,500. Is that what you're trying to say?
Just anything, because,
Anything?
it's hard to get people in departments right now, but to go through the additional training,
Because they get paid, what, 18?
depends on the department.
No, the ambulance, don't you pay
Yes.
like 18 or 20 bucks an hour or something like that?
Yes, yeah. It's like, I can't pull that out, and maybe it's like 2059 or something, it's an odd number. But yes, you do get paid for that, responding to that call.
That's something we should, because I didn't know that.
Mhm.
That's something we should make sure people are aware of.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And there's a lot of people that think that it's completely volunteer, but it is in a sense because, you know, you never know. I mean, it's not like an actual part-time job.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but, you know, should probably be mentioned, but I guess we've never seen that. And I don't know if you watch social media, there's a lot of services out there that are doing the same thing and are asking, but they really have never, ever put down what they get paid. I'm not for sure why.
Most of the time,
But
we're
most
gonna,
of them do pay you, yes.
most of the time, we're gonna respond, the departments are gonna respond anyway. If we got one or two people trained with a med bag that can at least do initial
Yes.
work, I mean, that's
And
a
that's all-
Band-Aid
and that's
for us
all
at
we-
least.
And that's all we're asking for right now, is for that initial, somebody to get to the scene and do that. And we're doing, we put in for a grant for pager radios. This will actually, the radios that are out there right now are actually able to communicate from, hopefully from Harris, we'll have to check that out, to the comm center. So if they are responding, they can let the dispatcher know, and that ambulance service that's coming down your highway is gonna know that you're on the scene. So that, it's all about communication, you know, for all of us. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, we meet again, what, in January, Mike? You know, we can surely bring that up for some sort of incentive, and definitely, you know, the first night of class, definitely go in and let them know that they are gonna be paid for this.
Any other comments, questions?
Gotta find the bodies.
Yeah.
We can throw as much money at it as we want, we gotta find bodies that wants to do it.
We did approach like Ashton. Ashton is a bedroom community during the day, but at night, we did approach them, and, you know, they are a few miles closer to Melvin than what Sibley is. And just ask them if, you know, like a couple of nights a week, if they could respond, you know, make sure that they.
What was their reaction?
Right, well, they were, it was a little different because some of them don't know, like, you know, what time they get off work. You know, they work nights too, but I said, well, maybe it can just be like a couple of nights a week. You know, we just need somebody to call the dispatcher and say, you know, this one and this one is gonna be on call, because the dispatcher is not going to wait 5 to 7 minutes after they page Ashton to figure out that no one's gonna show up. They're gonna page Sibley because that Sibley has that schedule, and they know that's a guaranteed thing. So if you wait that 7 or 8 minutes and then you call Sibley, you are so far behind on the 8 ball that you know, it's too slow. So that's why Sibley always gets paged with the same time that everybody else does, because we get them rolling, and that's how it works.
You guys from Sibley do considerably, really well.
Yes,
Getting there, I'm always amazed at how fast you can get to Melvin.
yes.
Um,
I'm always concerned about the winter weather.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a big heavy rig, and it's top heavy, and you start sliding around, and, you know, I just don't like that. We cannot I don't like being in the back like that, but, you know.
Thanks, Sandy. It's 9:00.
I'm sorry, yep.
Resolution 18, making award for construction contracts for the Osceola County Public Safety Center revamp.
Good morning.
Morning, John.
So I've been busy talking to the contractors and everything, and I've handed out the analysis for some of the numbers that I was getting back from the contractors. And I've broken it into phases of work just for your consideration. I had them break out the existing jail demolition costs. And in the jail demolition, you know, we had they said there was $61,582 of general construction, $2,800 of plumbing, and $5,625 of electrical. I think they didn't include the masonry work when they tore the building down, but they're telling me they're in the range of $70,000 and $7 on building demolition that was included in the project per addenda. The existing sheriff's office renovations that were added to the project were there was $136,469 of general construction, detention equipment, you know, replacement of security electronics and doors was $27,286. Plumbing additions was in the range $7,400. The gas refeed, because when the building was moved from the north to the west, the gas line basically runs in an odd direction. There's 2 meters out there. The gas refeed was $4,650. There was heating and ventilation and air conditioning added to the furnace added to the facility, and ductwork. So the heating was $26,400, and electrical, which I gotta believe some of this electrical has to be done because they came up and examined. There's 2 different sources of power coming into the facility, and if we're gonna run a new building off the emergency generators, some of that work may have to be done, but that was $35,875 worth of work, including the work in existing renovations. So you had around $238,000 in that project. That did include the roof replacement, which they're telling me is $59,781.2781, and that's the existing roof that we're looking at over the sheriff's office. Also, there was a walkway connection added. The walkway connection was added to connect the existing building to the standalone jail, and it also had security doors so that you could walk back and forth through it and hand out key fobs if they were wanting to park on that side. That was $34,766. General construction, $13,100, and security electronics and detention doors. Plumbing was $2,240. The HVAC, they said they're gonna leave the 2 fan coil units for that area, that they needed to at least have lines running to it to balance the system. I'm not sure about that. Electrical, $4,928. So the total for that walkway connection was $55,034.
Also, when we were evaluating the bids, the plumbing bid bond was listed at $31,140 on their bid. And for some reason, they listed the 5% bid security on there instead of the actual cost of their payment performance bond. Their payment performance bond was $6,200. So the bid would be reduced by $24,940. The electrical bid, when I was qualifying them, they had thermostat wiring that's supposed to be completed under the HVAC contract, which reduced their bid by $3,125, which included the reduction in their bond costs. So those are some of the additions to the project for, consideration, moving forward. Then I started going through the jail, the new jail, and VE items that I saw is that we're trying to get the civil engineer to reduce floor finish 15 to 1533.5, and they didn't get it down, but in looking at it, we can get it down and reduce the finished floor to 1533.5. And that would allow for the removal of the ramp and stairs on the west side of the building. There's a ramp all along the side of the building there. That was $14,998 deduct. I had them delete the sidewalk and paving at the monument since that's been completed as a deduct of $2,205. Reducing the floor finish, reduced excavation by $3,159. They still had that one tree in there per addenda, but we've taken that down, so that reduced it by $2,205. They had a storm sewer along the west side of the building collecting all the drains, and I told them, why aren't we providing a trench drain and then running it to the curb? And that would reduce the storm sewer on the south side of the, or west side of the building by $16,508. When they moved from the north, and talking to the architect, when they moved from the north over to the west side, they increased the height of the building because they wanted to drain all towards the west, and also so they also had some parapets on there, and I said, and we were able to, in talking to them, they said we could reduce the height of the exterior interior precast, full height precast by 3 foot and still drain that way. That would reduce the cost by $32,823. I asked for a price to change the precast color. The precast color they had in the initial design was a black, and I was told by all the precasters that it was adding 30 to 40% to the project, but when I asked for the cost reduction, the color switched from black to a tan or beige color, which I felt would match courthouse better, was $7,245 deduct. Some reason they put concrete back in the future GP expansions, and I said I really didn't want that in there because if we changed our mind and went to individual cells in there, I don't want to be back in there tearing out concrete. So that removes $6,030 from the project. It'd be just the rock would be graded in there for concrete, but none of the concrete would be in there. We're not going to be using that area till the future anyways. They told to eliminate Den's deck under the roofing, and for some reason they said it was still in there, so that was a deduct of $8,400.
What is Den's deck?
Den's deck's like a insulation board of sorts that you'd use like on a canopy or something. They use it a lot for drive-it systems. It's a hardened insulation board. It didn't remove any of the insulation. In plumbing, substitute the Bach equal hot water heater for the PVI. That was a deduct of $6,800. Typically, we have the Bach in most of the facilities because of the reduction in cost. For some reason, they had a lint separator, underground lint separator, that I feel is not necessary. That was a deduct of $3,880. Use ProPress fittings for domestic water. ProPress fittings are approved for the engineer. That was a deduct of $4,660. Use PVC for the vent piping in lieu of the ductile iron they have included. The PVC was specified in the specifications, but for some reason they picked up ductile iron pipe. That was a deduct of $4,400. And use Viega Mega Press gas fittings for the gas main. Standard practice is $2,300 deduct, and utilize fiberglass mop sinks in lieu of terrazzo was $1,200 deduct. So the deduct for that portion of the building was $23,060. And on the next page, as far as the detention equipment contractor, in those future additions, they had the windows, doors, hardware, security electronics, and cameras in there. I'm going, why are we putting them in at this time? That was $56,881 with security electronics and such. I'm gonna hold this new jail optional VE items. I mean, they said if they change the flashing gutters and metal to 24 gauge, it'd be a savings of $66,412. And by changing the finishes on precast panels, you know, minimize the acid etching and change to the light sandblast, there's a savings of $12,022. And I took those two figures at $78,435 deduct. I did get the cost for you, Ed, on you asked me what it would be to delete that future additional shell. It was $86,592.22. I think that's low from what I saw in the estimates for steel and such. And I think when we talked initially and decided to put that portion on, I'd given you a cost that was going to be in the range of $150,000. But they're saying it's $86,592 to add those two general population future addition pods on. They said there was a reduction of $16,012 change insulation, but that's something that we're not willing to accept because it reduced the R value and doesn't meet the current energy codes. So I didn't take those two. What we have. On the next page, additional to original estimate. Under there is delete the demo curb and sidewalk and the paving on the southwest corner of the existing sheriff's office. I mean, it was a deductive, $31,700 approximately. We already covered the detention equipment. So you're looking, if we took most of those items out of the project, $615,072. I did talk to Maggie. She said if we were to issue the bonds at premium, we get an additional $125,000 to $175,000. And I figured interest earnings on the bond proceeds, we'd have $100,000 in interest. So we'd be in the range of a total deduct of $890,072. So given that, that's still, we're going to be $7,757,000 in lieu of the 6,457. So we're still, you know, in the range of 1.3 million over budget, just on the building. One question that did come up is if we're adding furnaces to the courthouse, are you abandoning the boiler over there? Or are you still using the boiler?
We won't be. But I mean, at the courthouse, we won't be because this is heating and cooling. I don't know about the sheriff's office.
I mean, there's other things I can look at. I mean, they have a storm on the east side of the building, between the buildings. It's pretty extensive, but I mean, we have 2 roof drains draining the courthouse over on the west side of the building here. And then buildings being close together, you know, if you're grade and get rid of some of the water, but you know, right now I didn't want to take that storm out immediately till we had a chance to discuss it and look at it a little closer. I don't want to have things. I thought the existing sheriff's office renovations were really low because there's a ton of masonry work on the outside of the building. They're doing masonry work and existing mechanical, after the building came down, an existing mechanical room all along the east side. And then match the 3 overhead doors on 2 or 3 overhead doors and everything on the north side. I thought 136 was a fairly low figure, just based on the masonry. The building is still draining towards the west for the most part. So they're just concerned which raised the height of the building on one side. But if it's draining towards the west, do we have to have that storm sewer over there? I'm not sure how much of the courthouse roof it's draining, and I'd like to investigate that further before we make that decision. So originally we were about, on the original estimate, about 415 a square foot, and the prices came in at 522 a square foot for the jail. So that's about a 25% increase. I've talked to the contractors and such, and they said they were awarded jobs in November of 23, and it's just, they haven't even been, the manufacturers won't hold the prices or anything else, and that they've experienced increases all along 24. So the market conditions have changed substantially. I think one other option we discussed is do we bid the job again, and they're anticipating, with possible tariffs coming about, steel prices increasing January 1st, another 5-6% or higher. And So if we experience some material increases, are we gonna benefit getting it down from that 522? Are we gonna be able to come in lower? I didn't see any other overdesign than what I've identified in the analysis here. So I guess I'm open to questions. Architect is available by phone if we need to involve him.
Is that 522 including the old jail, or is that just the new jail?
It's
Per
just,
square foot.
that's just the new jail. The original estimate was just based on the new jail, and it was 10,283 square foot. And then we added the 2 GP sections onto it, which brought it up a little over 11,000. But I mean, we're shelling that out, and it doesn't appear there is a lot of cost associated with shelling that area out for future expansion. I think you're gonna want that, you know, and it's not gonna be cheaper to add it on in the future. It can be, but you're trading some of the precast on the exterior for 9-inch, you know, instead of 6-inch precast and then finishes. So does it make sense to take it off now to get it done? I mean, I've seen estimates for jails coming in this size for 16 million and everything else as far as estimates that I've seen on other counties. I think I was in Union County the other day and they had a quote of 16 to 18 million for a jail approximately this size. So I guess we're looking at a cost of, you know, of 6 million, 6.615, you know, in construction costs in that range. So I guess I'm open to what you'd like me to do from here. The market conditions have just changed that much since November of last year. And although they tell me that there is cost added for moving it from the north to the west side, I wouldn't have thought it would have been that much. I'm sure it added some, but
What's the total we're looking at right now?
well, I figured 1.3 million over, you know, given the 890. I'm sure that the plans will have to be modified some to get the code enforcement, and there may be a cost, so I put 1.3 million in there. That's $7,757,000, and that was based on the funds that we had available. I didn't add in possible selling the bonds at premium that has been done on another project of anywhere from 125 to 175,000, or the interest of 100,000. So I figured we're about 1.3 over. And then if you take, let's just say, figuring 200,000 out of interest, I don't think we've accumulated interest in ARP money, have we, sorts, but.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't know without checking.
Are there any type of grants or anything out there from the state or the feds?
Grants pretty well dried up as far as I've seen, and I think that with the new administration coming in, what I've been hearing, that if they're trying to cut governmental spending, I don't think we're gonna see grants and stuff coming up right away, to be honest with you.
What do you have as price per square foot as it was bid?
It was in
And
range
with the
522. Oh, with the deduction.
Well, as bid and then with deductions that you're considering here.
As bid, came in at 522,000.
No, price per square foot, $522 per square foot.
Yeah, that included the renovation portion of the building,
And it,
which that should have dropped the price in because that's administrative area. We had estimated 415 a square foot and 10,238 square foot. That was before we added on the future additions for this estimate. Yeah. Then we redid the estimate in Q24. and moved it up to 4.3 million. And it increased that much till November because they had 2 months longer, you know, as far as they had to redo the design once the move from the north side to the west side of the building.
and what do you get price per square foot with the deductions you've considered?
I have not done that. We have the deductions.
Are there funding options, ways to accomplish what we need to accomplish?
That's what I was trying to think of, I can't think of any.
Like borrowing from a bank?
I don't know if we go back to a vote for additional borrowing, or if there's local borrowing that can be done, or one idea I've had is we've built up a heck of a war chest off of health insurance changes. Do we modify how we budget for health insurance and what that's going? And I'm not saying we borrow from that. We fund it differently or less so that it's freeing up funds. We've got urban rural areas that are kind of phasing out. Do we let that hit and dedicate those dollars towards this? I don't know if a project of this nature is, I start to question a project of this nature is worth doing if we're just cutting as much as we can and not having the finished product we kind of set sights on, but those are our two options.
One option just based on construction schedule, and I'm just throwing this out for, you know, because I know the board came back and several of you wanted that building done. If, you know, the schedule was starting in May of 25 and not finishing till May or June of 26. So, I mean, you have this year that you're gonna be budgeting for in March. And next year, if you wanted to get that demo done, that could be budgeted in 26, 27 year, because you wouldn't be able to move the inmates out till after we got it occupied. I mean, I'm just thinking of options to get that building down that you want it down. And so I guess I didn't know if there's budget options that we could look at as a group or whatever.
I don't think going back to bond will ever pass, will it?
I don't think so either.
We won't be able to do it until November, I don't believe.
Yeah, you'd have to go
And
back
that- well,
to November. Yeah,
11 months out again.
yeah, And then.
'Cause I don't think we can do it, I think it's
No,
only
we'd
in
be
November.
rebidding the project if we did it
I know,
at that
but what are our
time.
options?
I know.
Yeah, I don't think it would pass.
I don't know, when the last one passed at 80%. I've been surprised by recent results, so it's hard to say, but
And we don't know what the cost would be at that time, you know, as far as, I mean, we'd redo the estimates, but if we're gonna be 25% higher, yeah, you know, after next November, you know, if you went to bond referendum next November, I mean, we'd be looking at a higher price, but also be looking at 25% above that higher price possibly. Because then we'd go back into construction and bidding in 27, you know, 2027. So, you know, I guess, does that help us out at that point?
The trouble is, we gotta have, you know, that ARPA money has to be spent by
It has to be
12/31 by
delegated.
26.
Yeah,
It has to be allocated this year, but it has to be spent by December of 26,
mhm.
December.
looking at these numbers, spending isn't gonna be an issue.
Yeah, I know. Just gotta have it done before the end of the year in 26. Do we need to reach out to Maggie or our lawyers to see what our options are?
How much did it change going from the north side to the west side?
I can't answer that question exactly. I know that they raised the building height, and they were dealing with some elevation changes over there on that side. Originally, we weren't tying much into that existing building, you know, and I didn't have any, in the estimate that we provided, we didn't have anything. We weren't considering anything in the administration except for putting up maybe a wall or so, and then a couple of walls, one to provide storage area for the voting machines and one for just storage, and then it turned into a fiasco of heating and air conditioning and filling in storm sewers and this and that, so that's what drove some of that cost up. But you know, we were just assuming at that time we were just gonna we being as a group, that we're just gonna put up, you know, the evidence room wall in the storage area, and that would be the limit of construction in that area.
How did we get so far off from the preliminary bid schedule?
When we switched, after we passed the bond and we came back and they started designing that side,
We approved the design on this back in January 2nd of 2024. And like the schematics and everything weren't even supposed to be completed until February or March of that year. So there was plenty of time. I don't know how, when we got down, we were supposed to start construction according to this in September. And the bids are supposed to be out in August. Instead, we're way back into November, and then talking with other local construction folks, it would have made more sense for them booking work for next year or starting in September to have kept with the schedule that you had presented. In fact, it said you would even be, hopefully you could move forward, that this would be sooner than what you had printed out. So I don't know how we ended up so far
I was
back.
hoping that we would be there at that time. I think that part of it was when we had put that schedule out, but then we were told, you know, we decided as a group that public wanted the building on the west side, which started them all over on design again.
But that schedule came out on November 24th. We had the approval to move that. We voted on it to move it over here on January 2nd. So I'm like,
Yeah, they had 2 months worth of, you know, of design done over there when it was decided to move it over to the west side. So
there's
they
very
basically,
minimal design with what you guys submitted originally for tearing down that house. It wasn't as in-depth as what this other piece was after we decided to move it over.
keep in mind, you guys, it's
Yeah.
architects here, contractor, not
Yeah.
mine. I was told by them, you know, and I was pushing to get it done because I wanted to bid as soon as we could. That from moving to there, and then with the significant issues they encountered, not having plans on the existing electrical, they were back up here. I can't remember the exact date. They came back up again during the course of the design towards the end because they had to get together with Alliant because Alliant was concerned about the two sources of power coming in and the new emergency generator and this and that. And I know they came up and started looking at that.
I mean, I could see in the minutes where we voted to keep the jail building. I don't see anywhere in there where we asked you to put it back in for demo.
That came up right at the end of the project for, because it was in the project, or in the plans, it says demo by others. And then somebody told us to put it back in, and I don't know.
I'd say we never voted on it, and this isn't your first rodeo, so you know
Yeah.
everything that's gonna get approved has gotta come from here, so I don't know how some of these things made it back in
Yeah,
that got submitted in there, but it wasn't anything we approved.
well, I was a little bit surprised at the amount of work that we were put, it was phased originally, and then for some reason got put back in. And I don't know, the architect said that they were told to put it back in.
Either way, we didn't make that direction to do it. That I can find in the minutes, but. So what do you guys wanna do?
I'm trying to think of a place we could get some money. Or a way we could.
Bake sale?
Yeah.
Well, if that emergency generator is getting replaced, I probably could find a source that could be sold if you wanted to sell it, but, I mean, I'd be willing to go back to the contractors if we're moving ahead. I'd want to see breakouts of this cost, because some of the costs appear to be lower than I would anticipate. But, you know, even if you sold an emergency generator, you might get 50,000. I know that I don't have 50,000 in my pocket right now either, but, I mean, we'd have to take steps. I mean, I'd hate to take all the, you know, finishes, floor finishes and stuff like that out of the project. I mean, you can value engineer the value out of a project too, so, I think that the decisions we make, given what I'm seeing on pricing on these jails today and stuff, $5 million is probably not bad for, you know, expandable jail. I mean, your 14 beds expandable by 24 and 12, 36. So, you know, you're looking that you would have expansion capabilities up to 50 beds in that facility. And you're building this facility, you've been in this one for probably 60, 70 years. And you want the design to accommodate, you know, any future expansion that you would need to have also. So, I mean, if you're looking at a $5 million cost for that, then is that reasonable, you know, cost? But I understand, you know, we have to have the money to do it too.
On that, addition or preparing for that expansion, yeah, I'm disappointed that it shows limited savings. But didn't you say the design of the whole facility is that it could be built on top of, you can mirror the floor plan and have additional?
Even the existing portion, if those weren't included, would be expandable 12 more on the second mezzanine level. Yes, that's correct.
So rather
The
than
expansion would allow for 12 on each side expansion. And that would be your general population area. the reason the individual cells are actually more expensive, of course, than the dormitory work really, or general population cells, because that's dormitory style. But to allow the sheriff to be able to classify inmates and have separation, the individual cells are kind of necessary.
Then I'm not in the VE value engineering world. You identified 251,000 of VE options as far, or almost 252,000. I've been told that that's usually not the contract holder's savings. The contractors participate in that savings. Is that accurate or true, or we're
Do you mean
confident
that
that the 252,000 is what would be saved through the VE options?
Yes. In fact, I think it should be higher, but depending on the options, the pricing that they gave us, I think they're hedging their bets on, the cost there. And I would not issue the contracts unless they were willing to sign off on VE items. I just don't know how we do if we rebid it. I just don't know how we do.
So these bids are good for 60 days, so we talking when we opened
January
it,
12th.
January 12th, we would have to,
Didn't we bid on the 12th and then we were gonna board on the 19th?
correct?
I know they're talking, and talking to some, they'd really like to get purchase orders and stuff, sent out before the end of the year because they're concerned about costs going up, but
Kind of put us in a spot, didn't you? Yeah,
well,
I'm blaming some of this on you. Because we went to bond, first it was 4.6, then it was 5.2. And then what do we come up with, 7.8 point something? But we're not even close
we're 6.4
with all these deductions.
with all these additions, yeah. The estimate was based on the estimate that I supplied everybody, which did not include,
Well, yeah, I mean.
I was told not to
we can
include
check,
demo,
but, I mean,
and the roofing was added,
see if, or.
and,
Talking minor,
We
little
don't have much
things to me.
on that.
well, little things add up into big things, and I
We're not
can't
adding up to
control,
enough.
Well, it depends
I can't
which
control the
ones.
market
Right
conditions.
now, we're just paying, we have about like $150,000 debt we're paying off. And then we have the
How much are we
rebates.
taking in?
Or I don't know, we're reducing it, so we're not taking the full everything in.
I'm just wondering if there's some TIFs money that we could,
Yeah, I don't know. That's something we have to ask. I mean, those are lawyer questions that we need to ask a lawyer and Maggie. We have to ask what our options are, if we can even use TIF, I don't know, because,
No, I'm not advocating using TIF funds. I'm saying
I don't
those
think we
that
can either,
are
because it's exempt
Maggie already
building.
paid off, we're letting it pass through, so don't mistake me that
Yeah,
we're
I
using
don't
TIF
know.
funds.
And we haven't gotten to budgets yet, so I don't know where we're sitting in the general fund. I don't know, public safety, he presented his budget, right, the other night?
What's that?
He presented his budget the other night, Kevin?
No.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
I mean, he has a hefty fund balance that maybe we could reduce, I don't know, reduce some of
Can we
the,
use that?
we can't use the fund, but we could maybe reduce some of our contributions to help pay for the jail. I mean, he had like a $1.3 million fund balance, which is substantial, that maybe we could cut back some of that. I mean, General Basic gives, what, 200 and some $1,000, I think, towards public safety. I mean, it's not gonna help a lot, but maybe we could help some. I mean, the rest comes from tax levies. Because I don't think public safety, I think that can't be used for the jail, because all the jail expense comes out of General Basic.
Yeah, I think it was 1.3 or something last month.
Yeah, it's a substantial fund balance.
Shouldn't be that high.
No. What do we do then? Just don't contribute? I think ours is in
Reduce
the-
it,
reserves.
reduce
I think
it.
ours is in that 700,000-800,000.
Between the tax levy and the
Yeah.
General Basic, yeah. Maybe, reduced some of that. But I mean, I know we can still use that $1.50 for the jail, but. I'm just trying to come up with, and, General Basic has a good reserve too, but, I don't know where this House file is setting or where we're at with our valuations yet.
Well, we really can't award a contract if we don't even know how we're gonna pay for it, can we? I'm asking,
I think we need to talk to the lawyer, Maggie, don't you think, to give us options? I don't know.
What's our general fund ending fund balance right now?
$2 million? Maybe up in that area.
So I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but technically we could. I'm not saying it's the answer, but so I think it's an option, but I'm not saying I'm advocating for that.
We can use some of that, but I wouldn't feel comfortable using the full
No, I
1.3.
understand that. Just as far as can we accept a contract when we haven't identified all the funding, if we know the case, but.
anywhere else you would cut?
I mean, we cut out the expansion areas, but I just don't think it's a good enough
How much dollars would that save?
86,000.
That's all?
Yeah. I said it was gonna be about 150. If we had a standalone building I mean, we're talking about, 11,000 square foot building. I mean, and there isn't a lot of fluff in the dang thing, so I mean, you're gonna have some, additional electric, but that's not anything that should have driven the price up that much, but that's how much costs have gone up over the past year. I mean, nobody anticipated it going that high. I mean, I know you're not happy, but I'm not happy either because, we tried to control design through the, process and it's still, the market prices, conditions just went out of sight. I mean, to try to build a 14-bed jail, for 10 million is just ridiculous, But the cost isn't because you're building a Taj Mahal. The cost is associated with building them indestructible. So.
Is there any options for us, and I know this, I'm just asking, this is probably a dumb idea, but for a different type of building? I don't know, I'm just asking. I mean, does it have to be precast? Does it have to be?
Well, what I found out is that the masonry block, if you want to go block and brick construction, is more expensive than precast. That's why we got out of it. And it also minimizes the amount of steel, steel columns and stuff we need. And you're not gonna go to a metal building, of course, or a steel building, you know, for security purposes and for longevity. You know, life cycle of steel building, 20, 25 years typically, you know, and precast building, you know, you're looking at 75, 80 years. And you can't have people escaping from them, so. Part of the cost is that you gotta fire sprinkle the building, and that's why I was concerned about doing too much work up on the existing building. You wanna kind of phase that work in, because if you go over a certain percentage, then you gotta bring that whole building up to code. And, I think we discussed that before, we didn't wanna get into that we needed to minimize any work we did in there. But I don't think that would be an option, and then we'd have to probably go through the design process and pay the architect and engineers for design again.
How many GoFundMe campaigns have you run?
That's what we really need to do, but,
What do you think, Jason? Got any ideas? Put you on the spot.
I don't like saying it, but I think we gotta figure out a way to come up with the money. I don't think we get a facility that we have to build to without getting in this ballpark, hearing other projects, and so it comes down to how do we fund it? But yeah, if we don't do it, I don't know that we have a jail for a whole lot longer, but we've had that risk for many years, so maybe it's bluff, I don't know.
the problem is we can't shrink it much because we have to meet certain jail standards and sizing and designs per fire marshal's office. Having a fire sprinkler system in a building that's all brick and concrete and block doesn't make much sense, but they require you to have it.
I mean, first we heard of it, we were given the range of 450 to 850 per square foot. I used just the new building footage and not the entire project footage, so I was way off on those figures. 522 per square foot is not way off of the 450 to 850, so rebidding, I don't know it's gonna be attractive.
I don't think it is.
Cutting is not generating big numbers. I think we need to figure out how we tackle this, but
Did you come back with some ideas?
Oh, I've been trying.
So do you wanna table it until we can identify some funding sources?
Well, I don't think we were set up to do the resolution until the 23rd, is that correct?
Well, I had it on the agenda, so, but it can be
Okay.
deferred again, like we did before, like we had done the last 3 times. And I didn't know, do you want to set up a call to see if Maggie or the attorney can help us come up with some resources, additional
You're
resources?
gonna have to find it within the budget.
Something,
There's no free money to be had anywhere.
you know, we need guidance. I don't know where else. I mean, I don't think we can take it out of general supplemental, and we don't have much reserve in there anyway, like we do in the general basic. You know, we can't, you know, I don't know what our levy rate will be in the general, because we're not done with valuations yet. But, you know, some costs, like I said, cutting back, giving to the public safety, maybe, I don't know, that's not gonna, I mean, like I said, general fund's only, what, $200 and some thousand, so it's not like a lot, but
Could we cut that in half?
you might be
The
able
public
to.
safety?
Yeah, we might be able to. I don't know what his budget is.
Can we pull 600,000 out of there?
I don't think,
I think if, I think if we do that, the full funding to public safety, then the communities need to see some reduction in their participation too.
That's kind of where
because
my question was going.
If we're talking general fund dollars, then everybody's contributing to it. So, yeah, if we can do that, I see everyone benefiting from it. But
I don't know, that would be, and I don't know if we can maybe borrow from it and then pay it back, but still, I mean, we couldn't borrow the full amount anyway. And that calls public hearings and stuff, because we won't be able to pay it back within a fiscal year. And like I said, that's like a Maggie and a lawyer question.
I don't know that it would hurt to talk to Ryan on the health insurance side. We've got significant funds sitting there that he's still preparing us each year to cover what our likely exposure would be. There's no guarantee, but the projections they do tend to, their goal is to cover it year to year. You don't need that money set aside.
So are
I
you,
don't know if it can be reassigned or if it's protected or how that goes.
I don't know either, because it's a non-budgetary fund, so I don't know how that works. If we could take
And do
part of that.
reduce the on-site allowance to, coming up 3 days every other 2 weeks, or 4 days every other 2 weeks, or, have, there's certain periods of time you're gonna want somebody on site, but there's 100,000 there that, we could take a look at, and if we could even reduce some, dimes that into dollars pretty darn quick, and I know that I've heard that some of the estimates going out there today for jails are in the $650 to $700 range, so I agree with you, we're not gonna do better. We got bonding and legal fees, bond issuance costs about 100,000. I confirmed that with Maggie, and she said that would probably be true, that it'd be in that range. I don't know if it'd be quite that high, but I went through the budget to see what I could find in there also to help us get some of this cost, but the on-site could be something we could take a look at to try to reduce that cost some.
But this 1.3, that doesn't include any overtures that we might have, right? We're probably gonna have overtures, I'm guessing.
We're at 1.126 if we were able to do everything that we looked at. And, so I figured 1.3 to get us up to the 7,757,000.
Yeah, go ahead.
So your expectation that the project's gonna be done by June of next year, is there a schedule that's part of the bid, or a scheduled timeframe that they're working under?
There's a schedule included in the
Okay, if we were to
specification.
relax that schedule to straddle into the next fiscal year, would that help with the contractor, or certainly help with our cash flow?
I'm not, right now we weren't talking about starting until March, but even if we issue bonds today, we're probably 90 days out, 90 to 120 days out of bond issuance.
And he's not starting any underground work until March, April or something.
I just meant we'd lose that time that we could gather that
I
interest.
see.
Then you're probably, with doing your submittals and stuff for your structural steel and precast and stuff, you probably,
Shop drawings.
yeah, 4-month schedule there.
Yeah.
Before you get precast, we were able to get it 4 months in Pocahontas. And so I think relaxing the schedule could put you into winter conditions also. Whereas if we start in March, hopefully we can minimize some of that, but we wouldn't be done. If we started in March, we wouldn't be done till May of 27. April, May of 27 is
26.
27.
So
Or no, I'm sorry, you're right, 26, yeah. So, I don't know if that gains much, to be honest with you. Because they're gonna want all the materials on site. if they don't get the materials bought out, what we're trying to do is get all the materials on site. Because otherwise you end up in confrontations with the contractor as an owner, because I've received those, I can't remember, 4-4s or something, where they say, you know, during COVID, they based it on actual things that were out of their control and cost-wise. I would hate to get in, you know, we don't want to get into any more costs, of course. So I'm not sure if relaxing the schedule is complicated. Usually the buildings go up pretty darn quick with precast.
I'm just worried about that insurance fund, you know, it's just not, it's general supplemental funds going into that and public safety and secondary roads all going into that, so I don't know if that would even be an option.
If we use that reserve to pay upcoming premiums
Yeah.
versus.
Yeah, but that's all the expenses
that's-
coming out of general supplemental, secondary roads and public safety.
Anybody else sitting around here got any thoughts?
Since we're not taking the house down, could we do under that 2 million that we don't have the funds for, whatever, 1 point, continue to operate, and then the next phase we actually finish? Because we could get, you know, the structure built, everything done for what was passed with our bond. We're still functioning as a jail, so we have a little more time than we did initially when we were gonna knock that house down and we were paying transportation fees and housing fees in another county.
That would be the plan, is, that's why I said we wouldn't move inmates from that facility to the new facility till May of 26. So we'd be into a 26, 27 budget year by then, you know.
I'd say we should call Maggie and the attorney. I'm sure they'd have suggestions.
You guys wanna table this till next meeting to figure out round up funds?
What, the 23rd is our next one?
Yep.
Yeah, because if we're not gonna do the jail, then we need to allocate that money, like,
Yesterday.
yeah. Or we're gonna lose it. Which we don't, I mean, it's 800 and some thousand, we don't wanna lose it.
I'd take a motion to table this till the 23rd.
So do we have to defer that resolution then again until the 23rd like we have been?
We've been told today, so I would think so.
I think we would have to defer it again.
That ARPA money, it has to be, we dedicated it to the jail. But can you move that?
We can, but we would have to do it by the 31st of December.
You had the time last week, Jason, about paying something else off or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we
That's the
could
way I
use it for
understood
the,
The amount we got was under the threshold that we could consider as income, so it can be used for any expense that
And then
we can pay.
we
So
can bring
we
it
just,
back, I mean.
we would just have to identify it as by
Right.
resolution.
by the
Just so you have-
31st,
If,
yeah.
you know, if it got into a jam.
Well, I mean, we had it in the minutes, November 2022, that you approved
Yeah.
for the jail remodel. And then I have a call or emailed Jamie Cashman. He has not gotten back to me yet. But I had a district meeting the other day and they said that all the counties that have it not dedicated, they're doing a resolution by the end of the year. So I having that on the agenda for next week for the jail remodel, but we might have to revise that or, because I got an email from them that I don't have it allocated, which scared me a little bit, but, and I tried to go into the site to create a new project, but I can't because we are yearly reporters, so there's no way for me to do that until March of '25. And I have to create a project and go through all my expenses. has been stressful.
One company said they delegated theirs to capital improvements.
Yeah, which,
Which left it open to use for their jail, but.
yeah, I mean, we have it, yeah, I mean, we don't do the jail, we can use it for the heating and cooling, which, you know, we could use some of it for that, and sprinkler system, or I don't know. I'll have to come up with something.
You can pay insurance with it, you can pay any bill you have to pay once it's identified as lost revenue, which I think we already did, but
We
we
did a
allocated it
resolution.
specifically to a project, so we
Yeah.
just have to act so that it's not
We did
tied to
150,
that project.
and we could give more to Nick.
Maggie and the attorney and see what,
Is that a motion?
Well, if you get, this doesn't really fit for what we're doing, but if you're saying that you wanna do this the same way we did it last time, is to permit the engineer to review and make recommendations on the bids, which we already did today, and so if we table it, that would make more sense than following this, cause that's not why we're not moving forward with it.
We could always say that we're looking at other options too, so I think it'd be, if it's on the agenda, I'd just defer it.
That's what the
Well,
lawyers told me to
resolution
do.
adjourned it To today, so if you can table it beyond when it was adjourned to, or if you would need to adjourn it to another specific time.
I just
So
told the
we're gonna
lawyer.
make that motion.
So we're tabling it then and not doing the resolution? Is that? We're not deferring it, we're tabling it? Is that what we're doing?
that's what I could see. Table until next week, or 23rd.
Does it hurt to defer it?
And
That's just the resolution that they resent me with the different dates, the lawyer
Yeah.
did. They said we deferred it until today, or, and then they
I
sent
think
the
by
resolution.
deferring it, it keeps you from having to advertise the resolution. So,
I'll do the best way, just defer it till the 23rd.
I would think that would be the proper way to do it.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
What time then on the 23rd again are we talking? 9 o'clock again, or?
So your motion is to table it.
To defer it till the 23rd.
This is using the full resolution approach.
Support that.
Mr. Schulte,
Aye.
Mr. Helmers,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Vandevliet.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right back.
So do you want me to reach out then to Maggie and to the lawyers then to see if we have a conference call next week? Is that what you want?
Maybe the lottery office.
Are you a lucky man or you a
See about
gambler?
getting some scratchers. Maybe spend the afternoon up and scratching them.
I mean, see if I can have them on the phone. Is that what the board wants me to do?
Would it make sense to gather some of the information?
I think it'd make more sense to gather that information prior to the meeting.
Yeah,
That way you can make the decision at the meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them and maybe.
You're the numbers person, so
And if they need to talk to me or whatever, then I'd be glad to talk to them too.
so she had trained Chrissy before. Alright, discuss the MA director position.
Probably good one for Mike to be here for.
You're not heading up this conversation?
When was the resignation effective?
I don't know when is it effective, his resignation.
So we are having a meeting today where we are supposed to be accepting his resignation. Now, he did state, I haven't personally spoken to him, but he did state that he would be willing to assist as we move forward to try to hire someone. Now, Mike did bring up the combining, which I mentioned my concerns with that. So we'll talk about it as a board this evening. I'm thinking part-time. I've heard rumors that there may be somebody within the county that would be willing to apply for the job, which would be great. But I don't know specifically, there's a lot of things that we don't quite know. One, do we have to post the position? If so, for how long? I'm assuming we do, and I think it's for about a month. That would probably be a phone call with Jack, just to verify. Two, who hires him? Is it the emergency management board, or does the emergency management board pick our candidate and then they get approved by the board of supervisors? No one can quite answer that, which I can run that past Jack also to see if he has the answer. But what I would like to do, my intentions at the meeting, I have two job postings for Benton County and Crawford County for an emergency management coordinator from the past. I can't seem to find one in Osceola County. So tonight I'd like to discuss, we accept the resignation, we move forward for a part-time, consistent with what Dan has, discuss whatever wages and benefits, which will be consistent with what Dan has, and then start the process, post county website, county newspapers, that the position's open, do the 30 days unless required to do more, which Jack will have that answer, and then at that point, we'll start doing the interviews.
Can you pass around those other job postings? Do you have them or no?
I have a copy of each, yeah. I can make copies and get them to you all before you're done today. But these are for full-time postings,
Okay.
so obviously the wages would be different, but the responsibilities and all are still the same.
Did you reach out to Sue maybe to see how they had theirs? 'Cause theirs was
I did
pretty
not, unfortunately. It's grant season, which has taken up most of my time, so this new little cool thing that I got volunteered to do, I've been getting as much as I can, but unfortunately I haven't gotten a lot of information. And I'm kind of winging it since I've only been doing this for a few months now, so. But yeah, and I don't know, Mike should be at the meeting as the supervisor rep for the EMA board. I was hoping he would be in here to kind of get his thoughts on it. But yeah, as the chair, that's kind of my plan. And after our meeting this evening, you know, if you'd like, on the 23rd, I can do an update as to what we decided. You know, to have Rochelle put me on the agenda.
So did he do a definite end date, or you don't know, or?
I don't know as of yet, no. But that's what I'm saying. If I get the rest of the week to kind of figure some stuff out and discuss it with the EMA board, I can kind of give you an update next week before we move into the holiday season.
There's Mike.
How many hours,
Bailed on me, but it's important the EMA thing.
how many hours are you thinking?
I have no idea. That's the thing. I can't find much information for our EMA coordinator. So I know most weeks it's not really that much, but in the event of a disaster, now we get, so that might be one where we want to reevaluate kind of how we have that position set up also.
Didn't Jack redo all the job descriptions at some point?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. I kind of wanted to talk to the EMA board this evening to kind of get an idea, and then that way I have all the questions at once that I can call and ask.
Just, if you're not going to pay insurance, it has to be under 32 hours a week. If they make more than 32 hours a week, then we have to offer insurance.
That's why I think combining the two, I really do.
30 with
I don't,
ACA?
that's
I
too
thought it was
much,
32.
that's too much for them.
That was our
you have an
policy, but
assistant-
didn't the Affordable Care Act require anything over
I really
30?
think in your, in certain situations, it's too much.
I have to look again.
That's my opinion.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
We were talking, he said they should combine the positions, and I, as a former ambulance and that, I don't think that would work in an emergency. That's my opinion.
But even with this train derailment, Kenny had the say-so, Dan didn't. The fire chief in each district has a say-so over the EMA director.
Not according to the manual, that's not how that works.
Yes, it is.
Dan still directs everything.
If the fire chief needs help with something, then they go to him.
You might wanna refresh on that, but
That's the way it's always been.
oh, go ahead.
Because when we had that train derailment, I thought Kenny took the lead way too fast. I thought Dan should have had it. And I was straightened out real quick on that.
after getting to review it after the mess we had in May City about who's supposed to direct what, Dan is supposed to direct all of that.
That's not the way it was like with the train derailment.
That's not what the book says for the disaster plan. That's all I'm going off of.
And that's what I was told, so.
But once again, going back to the flood, you know, Dan was pretty spread thin on his own program, you know, like being alone. So, you know, if we would extend it another day or 2 or 3, we'd have lost most EMA services. You know, I mean, a person can only go so long. So as we look at a new EMA director, you know, and like I said, my concerns on the combining, we may want to look at that backup. You get a guy like Ken, who's a fire chief, who's understanding the incident command, you know, or maybe 1 or 2 other people that are designated as part-time, they do training, and then in a disaster, they're activated. You know, that could be another option.
That's why I think we should think about this a little bit before we make a decision.
We're having a hard time finding volunteers for just about everything.
And that's my concern. If I am correct in the rumor that there is someone in the county willing to do the part-time position that Dan has, I think that's a
There's
very,
actually 2.
well, either way, I think that's a very good, because most counties it's full-time. So if we're looking for part-time, I don't see us getting anyone coming here. But if we could get someone from within the county who understands stuff to take over that, I think that would be a good win. And it prevent me from having to do interviews every week for the next, you know, 3 or 4 months. But once again, until we have the meeting tonight and kind of get an idea, I won't quite know specifically.
But that job has to be posted, doesn't it?
We were discussing that while you were gone. I'm thinking it's a month, but I'm gonna speak to Jack and just get his understanding, so that way we're completely legal in what we do.
And if it is a month, is Dan willing to hang out until that time, or?
What I've heard was that Dan would be willing, because he's took a full-time job with the sheriff's department, so he's not going anywhere. He said he would be willing to assist until we got someone hired. We're scheduled to do our budget meeting in February, so, you know, I'm hoping he would be able to assist with that. If not, we'll be winging it, but we'll get it done. But yeah, it sounds like he's willing to help out.
I value your experience, and it certainly means more than my understanding of how it works. And I understand the conflict that EMS and EMA could present each other. How is that different than a part-time position? Dan sits at the dispatch desk at the hospital or at the sheriff's office. He can't leave there if a call comes in or something happens immediately. I mean, how do we know that that's less?
Because we need all hand on for the ambulance, we need all hands on deck there.
And I'm
We
not,
gotta be in the
right,
field.
you hate pulling people from
Yeah.
ambulance, but I'm just saying, if we're advertising a part-time position, how do we know that they're available when an EMA event hits anyway?
That'll be part of,
Part of the job.
you know, because Dan has an agreement with Kevin. You know, obviously if something's gonna happen, you know, the courthouse or the sheriff's office is gonna have to function dispatch, you know, with Dan doing his EMA stuff. But in that case, in a perfect world, we have a plan in place where as this is happening, the sheriff's department has contingencies. So whoever we were to hire as a part-time person needs to understand that, you know, it's kind of like you hire someone in the National Guard, you know, hey, this is going to take precedence when, you know, a disaster is declared.
So if they're on the EMS schedule, why wouldn't they have that defined on who
Well, my concern
takes
is,
care of EMA
you know,
during that time?
take Sibley out of it, because you've got a guy like Ken who's very experienced in this. Let's say we get a tornado in Harris or Melvin, you know, where you don't have a Ken. I'm not saying the person you have is any less, but just doesn't have the experience as Ken. Now we have that EMA hat trying to run the scene because your firefighter can't do the things Ken did for the train derailment. You also have an EMS that's fully activated right now, with no leadership. So, you know, that's kind of, now that's kind of a worst case scenario, but at the time where we need the most assets, we're at our most vulnerable.
I don't know about the no leadership because Sandy's not on duty all the time. That ambulance goes out of luck without Sandy.
But what I'm saying is, you know, that it's one thing to receive a call or two throughout the county, but if you got a EF4 that goes through 3 neighborhoods in a town, every department's doing search and rescue and hazard mitigation, you know, every ambulance we have is there, you know, I mean, we're probably pulling nurses and everything else. You know, and Sandy would in that aspect, if it was combined, be at the incident command center, coordinating with FEMA, which asked Dan how much time that takes, you know, coordinated with other departments, not even, ambulance is just a small piece of the pie. You know, it'd be like, you know, every department here knocking on your door at one time when we're selling concert tickets at the courthouse, you know, everybody's freaking out over this or that. How much flexibility do you have?
But Rochelle would put on 2 shows once they're singing.
Rochelle can do both jobs. but
Yeah,
no one else, I
whatever.
don't think would be
Worst
qualified.
case scenario would be a
Not even close.
tornado or something, and then you know, you may have to set up triage and everything. So all the ambulance people are gonna be there. Then who's gonna run the?
That's when you call them the neighbors.
Well, yeah, but somebody still has to organize
Yeah,
the neighbors.
you'd have those mutual aid agreements,
Yeah.
or, yeah, I don't know.
But-
I guess I see potential for
see.
having those agreements in place and addressing the 90% of the time,
But that part,
or
that's
the
not,
10% of the time to accomplish the 90% of the time.
that's really not the complicated part. It's the outside part. You know, mutual aid, that's no problem. We'll run to every town nearby if they need us, you know? It's bringing in the bigger stuff, you know? Okay, we need porta-johns in May City for a flood, you know? While everything's going on at once and you're trying to run this, you're on the phone with this going on, with this going on. It just, it could get away from somebody really quick. And at a time of disaster, as we learned with the May City thing, we kind of want to have our ducks in a row.
But you know, Ashton had the big flood too. They handled it pretty well. But anyway, I just think it's something to think about.
I guess you can give us an update on the 23rd after.
Yeah, we'll have a meeting this evening and kind of talk to the board, guys that have been on the board for a lot longer than me, kind of get an idea, and then make some calls this week and hopefully have some answers, so on the 23rd we can have a conversation.
Super.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Approve engagement letter with Hopkins and Hubner.
I would make a motion to do that.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appoint a representative and alternate to the Northwest Iowa Solid Waste Agency and Recycling.
How's that working for you, Leroy?
Yeah, it's fine. It just, you know, it's getting harder to maneuver around there, but,
If you don't want to do it, just say so.
I'll continue as long as I can.
Who's the alternate?
I think Jerry is. in Northwest Iowa. And I ran a committee list, and your Northwest Iowa landfill alternate.
January 8th, you get a free meal.
About that, but if you want me to go,
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't be able to go on the 8th of January.
did they change start time?
Yeah, well, this one starts at 6:30 or whatever. It's in Sheldon
Okay.
at the VFW. And how to use pay reviews. I mean, I got
But their regular meetings, what time do they start?
7. Yeah, they changed that from 7:30 to 7. That's why we changed the public safety.
You just have to let me know.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
Alright, if there isn't anything else, I'd take that last thing on the agenda.
I think I need a motion on that, cause we need to sign that. We'll just keep Leroy and then Jerry as the alternate then, is that how we're doing that? I think I
Sure.
need a motion on that. Please.
I'll make that motion.
I support it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now for the last item on the agenda.
Andre mentioned the community foundation. You're on the schedule to score this year. Is that in your plans or intention? Or?
Would it be?
Learn that again, Jason, I didn't catch it.
Not economic development, community foundation grant cycle. Ed and I both on that. We alternate years scoring, and I thought it was your year. I'd be fine with it being your year if it is.
Yeah, I don't care.
He'd sent out an email yesterday that they were ready. I was either gonna pick them up today or just wanted to check with you. Verify, I guess. Whichever one of us did it last year, the other one can do it this year. Good. Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support it.
All those in favor?
Aye.